Hello everybody, I'm Steve and welcome to Green Side Up. I'd like to introduce a friend today, and I'm actually stood on them. It's damp proof membrane. My friend, they've been helping me on this plot now for about 8 years. And chiefly what it does is, the first thing it's very good at is it suppresses weeds, stops the light getting in them, stops the weed growing, and it'll kill the weeds off that's underneath this. So it's a good helping hand to have a nice big bed like this. Is 40 foot by 18 foot. It will kill all the weeds underneath here in anywhere between 6 to 12 months. So when you're starting a new allotment plot, if you've got the extra helping hand, it can be killing the weeds over here and you can work over there. So you get work done in two areas at once. That's why it's your friend, and it's worthwhile spending the money on it. The other thing it does, as you can see, it's pools of water in here, is it stops the soil underneath getting saturated. So for instance, in sort of March, when I come to want to plant my potatoes and I'm wanting to dig the soil over before then, because of all the winter wet, normal exposed soil would be too wet at that time of the year. I cover this. I'll cover a bed in about January with this. It'll keep most of the winter wet off, and while it's keeping the wet off, the soil underneath is draining away and drying out, so that mid-March I can come along, just run a fork through the soil and I'm away nice and early. And by the time I finish that job, the rest of the soil on the plot is either drying out, or I can just move this stuff over. So it helps you in so many ways. It's an extra pair of hands. I will put a link in the description to buy some of this from Amazon. You're under no obligation to buy it, and just for full disclosure, I earn a commission from Amazon, not from the money you pay, but from Amazon for advertising it. If I went and bought it, I would pay exactly the same price as you. So that's that. But we'll go and look at some other options that cost either less money or no money at all. So we'll go and look at those options as well now. So this is another option. Now, apart from the obvious flagstones here, this is carpet, and it's been down on this bed, and you can see what it's done there. It's totally killed and stopped more weeds growing. Now, it does allow weeds to grow on top, and normally I've had this carpet down for years now, and normally what I do is twice a year I will turn this carpet over so that will now be the top, and what you'd see, and the weeds that are on there will suffer the same fate as the weeds that were there. So you've also got to be careful when using carpet that you use the right sort. If you use a sort of foamed back carpet, the sort of what I call plastic carpet, that foam will very quickly degrade out in the sunshine and it will fall to pieces. I've had it happen to me when I first started. I was advised to use carpets and I learnt the hard way. So now if I use carpets, and I'm using them less and less, and I use this Hessian backed carpet, you can see that starts to come off. It's getting close to the end of its life, but this carpet's about 8 years old, and by turning it you prolong its life. So that's that. That's another option. I say this is it. I haven't turned this summer because all this carpet's coming out the last bit, and it's being disposed of because I'm going to reuse this area here for something else. So that's another option, carpet. Now, the whole ethos of allotment holders has really always been to sort of reduce, reuse and recycle. When somebody offered me some corrugated steel, as you see in front of you there, from an old shed, I took it on board. I didn't know what I was going to use it for at the time. Probably thought I was going to use it to make compost bays, but it's ended up there as a pathway. Again, it's another weed suppression, making a nice stable pathway, if a little slippy in the wet, but I'm used to it now. And I've got several pathways out the back here made using these tins. It just keeps weeds down. So anything you can get hold of, you know, no allotment holder worth his salt will walk past a skip without looking in to see if there's anything you can use. And you'll find sort of these old carpets, as long as they're Hessian backed, old bits of tin, bits of cardboard, bits of hardboard or plywood, whatever. Find this stuff and find a use for them on your allotment. I mean, don't collect junk, but find use for the stuff that's there, and you won't look back. Cardboard is good to a degree, but it won't last you very long. If you put it down and cover soil, it will last you somewhere between 6 to 9 months. If you're walking on it, it will last you 2 to 3 months, because once it gets wet it tears very easily when you walk on it. If you just lay it down, it'll be a while before it rots through. But these are all temporary, sort of inexpensive solutions just to get you started on your new allotments, which is what you want. Now it's definitely worth spending a few minutes talking about tools in your new allotment garden. This is a standard fork. It's a reasonable size. It's slightly bigger than your average normal fork, so you've got good leverage on it. Thing I don't like about it, this is a spare one of mine. Somebody gave me this, and this will be passed on to a new allotment holder at some stage if anyone comes along and they haven't got any tools. And I do that, I collect tools and pass them out. So that's not one I'm using. I use these ones. They're slightly bigger, and that gives me slightly more leverage to work and to do things, and I'm not bending my back so much, so it doesn't cause, you know, you don't go down the allotments and then go home and find you've got a bad back because you're leaning right over because you're dealing with a small fork. You're still tired, you've still done a workout that day, you've just done it in an easier fashion, which means, I mean, you're coming down to the allotments for it's a bit of a hobby, it's a bit of provider of food, and it's a recreation, so you want it to be as pleasurable as you can. So using decent sized tools helps. I'm not going to put links to these for Amazon like I did with the plastic, because I can't find these particular tools, so I can't recommend another one because I haven't used them. But what I like about these is this is a Fiskars, and my fork is as well Fiskars brand, but it's a steel shaft. This one's wooden. This will break on me eventually, because on an allotment you don't know what people have done before you. You could find piles of bricks and you could be trying to prise something up and a wooden handle will snap. This won't. These are brilliant, and they're also a little bit taller, as I say. I think they're 1.10 m tall, and this nut here comes level with my belly button, and it's important to get the right size tool for you. There are varying sizes and lengths of spades and forks, and the reason is because people are varying sizes. You know, I'm about 5'9", I think. I'm not, you know, I'm not a tall bloke, but if I was 6 foot plus, like you know a lot of men are, this would probably be too small for them, or they would end up hurting the back. I was looking a couple of days ago for a friend for something, and I saw one of these, and I think it was about 1 3/4, no, not 1 3/4, 1 1/4 meters. So again, it's another sort of that much on top, and that might be suited to a taller person. So don't just go and buy online, go to a shop, have a look, have a feel for it, and gauge the size. So that's those two. Steel shafts, bit taller to make life easier, not wooden, it's not going to break. This hoe, I have put a link in the description because I think these are brilliant. This is a SWO, and I have mentioned this before previously on several occasions and done a proper review on it. But what I like about this is it's got the 3 cutting edges, 1, 2 and 3. So it cuts on the forward motion stroke and it cuts on the pullback, and you can even get in between plants with that side action. This is brilliant, and it's got a nice long handle to boot, so that's perfect for me. I do still use a Dutch hoe. I've got one around here somewhere hanging up on a nail here, but I use that just basically for breaking soil down. But that is fantastic. I couldn't live without that now. And one more thing which you will struggle to get hold of, which I really love, is this thing. Again, it's on a really long handle, and this is my claw. It's an old, I suppose it's not far from being vintage tool now. It's got the spade ends to it, and it's a cultivator, so you can drag and break soil down. So it does a little bit more work to the soil than a hoe will. And what I find is really good is these middle tines here. If you get a lump coming up in the soil when you're pulling it, you can smash it with that, and it's a brilliant thing, this. Called the 5-prong cultivator. I looked on eBay last night, there's one of these for sale, so first there gets it. I think it was about 25 quid. Then you just want a nice long handle. So that's that. And the other tool which you're going to need, and I've got several of these as well, it's just a standard rake, just for moving soil around, tidying areas up, pulling soil to one area. I'm on a slope here, front and back, so I find I use this mostly for pulling soil back up the hill after the rain has washed it down. And I've got a big landscape rake which is probably twice the width, and it's made out of wood. So they're your basic tools that you're going to need for your allotment. So try, if you can, to stay away from wooden handles. Try and get yourself fitted to a spade and fork, digging fork, because you're going to be using it a lot at the start, and you want one that's comfortable. I don't know if I said, but the nut of that is level with my belly button, if that's anything to give you a good guide. And I find that that's a good size where you can do the work and you're not putting in, you're not getting that back breaking work from a shorter one where you're bent over. You're sort of more upright. So have a look for them, and there are other brands as well, so I mean, you find what's suitable for you, but go and get fitted for one. Essentially go and have a look at one in a DIY store. You can go and buy it online afterwards if you want to find the cheapest price, but get a good idea first of the size you want. Take a tape measure and measure them, and sort of fit yourself to your tools, because you're going to be using them an awful lot. You're also going to need a little selection of hand tools. Now I'm probably gone a little bit extreme here, but you'll need a pair of secateurs, a pair of scissors, a little fork and trowel set, and perhaps a dibber. Now I use dibbers once the soil's been cultivated and raked down. I'll use a dibber to make a hole for plug plants. I'll just dip a little hole and the plug plant goes in. It just makes planting easier. Bigger plants, pot plants, I will use a little trowel or even a little fork. You know, you might need a pair of loppers if you've got trees on your plot, or if you've got brambles that you need to cut away. You certainly need secateurs and a couple of pairs of snips. I mean, I used the little snips at the end over there for deadheading my roses and cutting flowers and things. So a nice little selection of that. They can come in time. To start with, you really only need a dibber, a fork and a trowel, and a pair of secateurs, maybe a pair of scissors. You know, the rest of the stuff has just sort of built up over time. And again, I've got loads more of this type of stuff lying around because I've been here for a while. So, but you will need those, and you'll probably need a watering can and a hose pipe too if you've got piped water on your site. So that's something you need to look into, and just make sure that your hose pipe can reach all parts of your plots as well. So measure before you buy, and then go and see. I won't put links to any of these down. You know, it's Hobson's choice really. You go and pick the tools that you want. So there you go. So in the first video we looked at going and having a look at a plot, being shown around, and what to look out for, and how to use some digital tools to help you achieve that goal of taking on your plot. And you've taken on your plot now, and today we've looked at some tools and some ground cover to help you be more comfortable and to have other things working for you at the same time. So the next video in the series, number 3, will be all about setting out your plot, how you achieve the best from that piece of land, and what you should be looking for and aiming for. So we'll go over that in part 3. But for now, please stay safe everyone, look after yourselves, and I'll see you in a little while. Ta-ra now.